coming up on The Chaos Effect.
My arm was grabbed when I had my middle child. He was just like a baby.
I had the urge to look over my shoulder, and every time I do, I feel like I just missed something.
Hey, I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
Poltergeist is nothing more than a devil or a demon as far as we're concerned. People say, this guy's going back into the medieval ages. There are no such things as devils or demons.
You ever have the suspicion that you've been abducted by aliens?
In 1947, a pilot spotted 9 saucer-like shapes moving at an estimated speed of 1,200 miles per hour.
Welcome to The Chaos Effect. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you may be listening. I am your host, Ryan Knights. We are coming to you from the deepest, darkest, smallest little back room in the nocturnal void. And please, before we get on with meeting our guests and the show itself, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. And now on with the show. My guests tonight are Richie and Missy from the Paranormal Five. They are part of a family investigation team. They've investigated such places as the Gettysburg battlefield, several places in the Bridgewater Triangle, and many haunted places in our local area, including the Parsonsfield Seminary. They are also very active in the community, conducting fundraisers and working with programs such as the Backpack Program in Sanford, Maine. Richie, Missy, thank you so much for joining me tonight. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it, man.
Well, I appreciate that we finally got the chance to get together, so I know life can be difficult sometimes, trust me.
Yeah. This is attempt number 7, but I think it's a beauty. We got through.
So before we get into this, since it's the first time you guys are on the show, I want to give you the first time guest disclaimer, and that is, It's the three of us in my Ford Fusion heading off to the next investigation. No matter where the road begins or ends, we'll be friends. See? That was relatively painless.
No, it was pretty good. I like it. It was very catchy. I like it.
Okay, so you're the Paranormal Five, which would be mom, dad, and 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
I guess the one place I really want to start is, what got you guys on the track that you are now? I guess what I mean by that is that, do you guys have a paranormal history? You know, what you've experienced, or is it just something that's really interests you and kind of formed this unit that you have going on now?
Do you want to answer that first?
Yeah. So, So for me, it was, as a child, I definitely dove way down the rabbit holes of the afterlife and what happens. And I just remember it was always something that, it really just intrigued me. And I didn't have an outlet for it. I grew up in a household where, it's not real, it's TV, it's movies. We don't talk about it. So I didn't really have an outlet for it. And so it was just kind of questions as a kid and curiosity. And then actually, fast forward later in life, the curiosity stayed the same, but just like there wasn't the passion to go out and figure out what it was. And then, meeting Missy, and once her and I got together, she had such a love for it that it kind of brought back my curiosity about it. And then I started to see that there are these outlets and there's these ways of really starting to, dig in and try to find some of these answers that I remember having when I was younger and just never had a way to go and explore them. So, kind of mixing that all together. And then not only that, but just kind of the community aspect of it. Learning this a lot more so in the last year or so about just how many people truly are out there and have the same interests. And, it's almost like a giant family of people that all just love what they do. And it's awesome. It's a great thing to be a part of.
Nice. No, yeah, definitely. And a lot of people having experiences too, which is the strange thing. I imagine it's probably something like this all around the world, but in certain places it tends to be stronger, like right here in New England. It's got such a long, rich history. I mean, even the abandoned apartment above me, there's a little bit of activity going on up there. But it's just, it seems to be everywhere, almost. It's kind of crazy. It is.
Definitely. Yeah, no, this is I think you nailed it. Living in New England, you can't talk to 5 different people without hearing something about the history of the area that you live in, and even more so when you talk about things that go bump and some cool stories. So it's a great place to be if this is a field that you're involved in, for sure.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. One thing I remember in a lot of the messages that we had sent back and forth and trying to set this thing up, and me trying to kind of pick your guys' brain a little bit and see where you were at, you mentioned something about being at Gettysburg. I would love to hear everything you got going on about that, because that stuff just really fascinates me.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll take this
I'm
one.
going to turn it over to the missus because she is the professional when it comes to Gettysburg. So.
All right.
Like, kind of just like going back just a little bit to your first question, is that like I've always been interested in the paranormal ever since I was a little child. Actually watching Unsolved Mysteries, like, and sightings as a kid growing up. And I remember watching the Unsolved Mysteries episode about Gettysburg and just being like, oh my God, like instantly being so intrigued and so fascinated about this history. And so luckily, being in a household that I was growing up in, both my parents kind of embraced this hobby, I guess you would call it back then. I guess it still is a hobby, but kind of embraced it and kind of went along on the ride with it. So we went to Gettysburg a lot as a child growing up. As I was growing up as a child, we went down multiple times. Luckily, we had family that lived close by, so we would always, take a day trip or whatever. And so, yeah, and my parents actually would set up, like, paranormal, like, investigate. Like, we actually got to go investigate with a paranormal investigator that lived down in Gettysburg when I was, like, 13, 14, somewhere around that age. And had some experiences then, smelled tobacco, felt my first cold spot, heard my first EVP. Like, it was so amazing. My mind was totally blown. And so that continued, that love and that passion just continued up until still now today. And now we're sharing these experiences and going out investigating with our children. We try to go down multiple times a year.
Yeah.
Actually, we have a trip planned at the end of November. We're going to be down there for Thanksgiving, doing what we love. And I feel like it just holds like a really special spot in my heart, just because I've had so many first-time experiences, and just on top of the history and the energy that this town has. But it also, like, our kids saw their first body apparition there, and just seeing that through their eyes, seeing that experience through their eyes, and also like us experiencing that like together as a family, it was something that not too many families can say, like, that they've had that, and just like the emotions and the thoughts that went behind that. It was really incredible.
Nice. So, well, I mean, since you mentioned full body apparitions, can you go into some of the things that you've actually witnessed there?
So like I said, I've had multiple cold spots. I've been touched one time that I was down there. My arm was grabbed when I had my middle child. He was just like a baby. I had him in the carrier, and my arm was grabbed at Back Bridge. I've smelt things. One time I was down there before kids. Like, I've seen this mist, literally. It was just on the road. We were on the battlefield in the wheat field, and right in the middle of the road there was this mist, and then it literally just kind of just disappeared right in front of us. It didn't go off to the side. It literally just kind of was a big, thick patch of fog, which was kind of for the time of the year that it was and when it was. It didn't make sense, and just how it kind of just disappeared before our eyes. So that was a really strange experience. And like I said, we had the full body apparition when we were down there back in 2019. Oh man, what else has there been?
Well, and actually, to kind of elaborate on the full body, so what was awesome about that was actually, so I'd had, prior to this trip, I've had a couple of experiences with equipment, some K2 readings, just some sensations, some feelings. So I was still really looking for that first big experience. And actually, to kind of set the stage for that, we were down at Devil's Den, which is just a beautiful area within the battlefield, just completely full of history, and you can go into that all day. But, we were up at Devil's Den. It was kind of getting towards the evening a little bit, and at one point I had gone off to a little cavern area and it was doing an EVP session, asking kind of the basic questions and trying to provoke a little bit and asking for something to give me a physical sign, that I was looking for a physical presence or something to tell me that you're definitely here. And shortly after asking so, I got the feeling on the back of my head as if somebody above me kicked dirt, and it felt like some dirt had rained down on me. And of course, I look up and I'm still underneath the cover, and there was nothing there that had broken free. And then, talking to, I go over and I'm talking to Missy about it, and, she was telling me that coincidentally about the same time, she was also asking for myself to get a sign because she knew that was something that I was looking to have down there. And then within, 5 or 10 minutes of this kind of my first physical experience, we have a couple that came over to us, and long story short, they were asking us if we were watching the ghost that was out in the field across from where we were at Devil's Den, and we got to a position and we looked out and you could see clear as day, full form, full person, was peering out from behind a rock, and it was this kind of residual. We kind of equated it to we equated it to being somebody that was kind of in battle formation, like they're ducking out to sea, they're getting back behind, they're ducking back out, and it went on like that, and we all kind of just looked at it and jaws dropped and saw it at the same time, and it was again, like Missy said, for us to all experience that at the same moment was incredible.
Wow, that's giving me goosebumps, man. Like hairs are standing up. That's wow. Oh my goodness. Oh, so I guess a question on that situation where you've been there. How much of the happenings that are going on there would you consider being like active or residual, that type of thing? Or would it be a mixture of both, you think?
I definitely feel like there's a mixture of both. I feel like it's very heavily residual hunting, but I like to say, like, I don't label myself as a psychic or medium. I'm just kind of on this spiritual path and journey, and I sense things and I pick up on things. And there's been times that I've multiple times, like, I have picked up on something that seemed like it was intelligent, that it knew that I knew that they were there, and kind of had some signs, messages, and I got some feelings from it. So I would say it's a mixture of both. Definitely, like, I'm leaning more towards that there's more residual. But yeah, it's just crazy. If you've never been, you got to get down there, Ryan. Like it's the energy. Like it's so hard to describe to somebody that hasn't felt it.
Yeah,
like,
one of the things I say all the time is, when you're down in this area, and again, I'll use Devil's Den as an example, and you see these massive rock formations, and you can go up and you can put your hands on them, and they're the same rock formations that were there during this battle, and just I can't even begin to imagine what was going through the minds of the people that were there and what they were experiencing and what they were seeing and the trauma and the excitement and the energy and just everything all balled up at once. And it's almost like stained in these rocks and in these grounds, and you can't help but just be in that moment when you're down there. It really speaks. There's nothing else I've ever experienced like it, like being down there.
Well, that actually, you pretty much answered my next question before I got a chance to ask it, so that works out really well. Because I'd always heard that the area was just completely supercharged. So the minute you walk into that area, you could feel it. It's kind of like the one time that I actually went to Salem, Massachusetts, and this was in the daytime. It was close to Halloween, but it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was probably like maybe a week or two away, and me and some friends just kind of wanted to go down there and walk around the area, and you could feel it. The minute you get within the town limits, it feels heavy, the energy, there's just something about it. So that's wow. That's really cool. Have you guys actually been to Salem?
Oh my goodness! So yes, we do Salem. We try the same thing.
Almost as often as we do Gettysburg.
I know, almost as often as we do Gettysburg. Exactly. Well, we usually always try to do Salem. We have like Halloween traditions, and going down to Salem in the month of October is something that we always do. Obviously, with this year, it's kind of sketchy, so we kind of postponed it. But no, we go down to Salem multiple times. Actually, sometimes our kids even request that for their birthday, is to go down to Salem and stay at the Hawthorne Hotel. So we do Salem multiple times a year, and it's so convenient because we're so close too. And plus we're like, I'm speaking for myself, and I know Richie is too, but like I'm a sucker for New England history. I love it here. It's beautiful, and like you guys were talking earlier, just there's so much history here, and I just feel very lucky to be here and be able to able to experience and enjoy the historical locations that are here in New England.
Oh, it's so rich. It really is. Well, that being said, I actually, what was it, last night? I'm doing dishes, and I'm listening to a video talking about some of the most haunted cemeteries in the world, and I believe it's Carson Street Cemetery in Salem. I think that's what it's called. That cemetery there is considered one of the most haunted ones in the world. I'm kind of wondering, have you been there? What have you actually experienced in Salem? were you actually kind of like one of the lucky ones to be able to actually see something or feel something, that type of thing?
So I feel like I have to say, no, I haven't been to you said Carson Street Cemetery?
I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because people have reported seeing, the spirit of Giles Corey walking around, and I think...
Are you thinking of Howard Street?
Okay, that might be it. I might have totally flubbed that one up.
No, it's totally, because I know that there is another cemetery down there that is pretty. It's an older one too, and we haven't been to that one. But I know that Howard Street is apparently allegedly where Giles Corey was pressed to death, and it claims if you see his apparition, Salem burns just because of the curse that allegedly he put onto the town.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. Yes.
We usually try to go off the beaten path when we go down to Salem, and Howard Street is definitely one of those places that we try to hit up, just because it's always quiet. It's on a one-way street. It's kind of peaceful, and it's actually kind of so there's Howard Street, and then the next street over is where we usually park. I forget the name of the
church.
It's Church Park. I forget the name of the road, but there's this big building, and it is a bunch of business, a bunch of offices inside of it, and actually that location where that building is on is where it was the jail back when during the Salem witch trials. Okay. So that's kind of Kitty Corner, or it's literally across the street from Howard Street Cemetery. Well, the street over. And then it's just that whole area right in that vicinity kind of has its own different types of energy and stuff like that. We've never experienced anything inside of Howard Street or kind of picked up on anything. It's just more of the energy thing.
It's cool when you go into the Howard Street Cemetery. It's almost it's a busy area. I mean, it's a little bit quieter right there, but as soon as you walk in the gate and you're in the cemetery, and there's just kind of ominous trees that are in there, and it's like you've entered into its own area. It's its own little world inside that cemetery. And like Missy said, we haven't necessarily had that big experience in there, other than just a feeling of peaceful isolation. You've entered into its own area. It's very comfortable. It's very relaxing. And then when you walk out of it, it's like you're back in Salem. It's almost like you leave the area for a minute when you go in the cemetery. And then so it's kind of cool. It's like a time placement thing. I don't know. It's got a unique feeling to it.
And then an experience that we had, me and Richie went down for an event that was happening at the Hawthorne Hotel, and after we were done at the psychic fair, I don't remember if it was a psychic fair, but it was some type of paranormal event that was going on at the Hawthorne Hotel. We walked to the what is it? I'm drawing a blank on the name of the cemetery. Oh, what was it? Oh, the Burying Point, the most famous cemetery that there is in Salem. And as we're walking up, I literally kind of looked at Richie and was like, I gotta go. And it literally felt like something had grabbed my hand, and I just kind of booked it away from Richie. I felt like there was some type of something that grabbed my hand. And I went off and walked into this tombstone, this headstone that I had no idea anything about. And lo and behold, when I got there, it was a headstone of this child. And my heart kind of just broke. And I'm just as a mom, that's just heartbreaking to think of a child passing at such a young age, or even not being a mom, or it doesn't even matter. It's sad. And that was probably a really kind of crazy experience, because I wasn't expecting it. We were just going off playing tourist. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I look at Richie and I was like, I'm out. I don't run, but I felt like I was running then.
Wow. Wow. So I guess that leads into this question. Before we kind of get into some other places you guys have been and experiences, when you go to your investigations and you start, doing your thing in there, is there anything that you guys are actually carrying with you? And I don't necessarily mean like the equipment that you bring in, but as far as like maybe stones, crystals, that type of thing.
Well, I have a necklace, and I can switch out crystals. I switch them out every so often when I feel like the urge of it, and sometimes when I know that I'm going to a certain location, like it just kind of depends on what I feel like I want to bring. Like I usually bring like a Herkimer diamond. I've got usually my moonstone or a fluorite, amethyst. Yeah, those are pretty much like my go-to crystals when I am doing. Obsidian is also another one, black obsidian, are pretty much like my go-to crystals when I'm going out.
Yeah, and I do I've been pretty consistently with, I've got a dragon's blood jasper necklace, that I keep on me, and it kind of helps with strength and courage, and also some other avenues as well as creativity and other things. But I keep that on me pretty close. And then obviously we like to travel with sage. Just going into some of these places, just making sure you leave cleansed and clean, and we obviously don't want to take anything with us. So we make sure that we pay our respects. And, I also currently, recently here, I've been kind of dabbling a little bit more in some singing bowls because, I like, as far as from a tool standpoint, kind of giving like a sound offering and putting some sound energy into the room, some vibration, and kind of raise the vibration of the room as well. And that's been a pretty cool experience to kind of see how that's affected, the experience shortly after using the bowls. And we're still, from an investigation standpoint, we've dabbled in kind of doing some things for ourselves and exploring. So we're trying to really dive harder into it and take on some more things and set up some more investigations. So, we're really kind of trying out some different things to see where our comfort level is. And so it's been a great experience overall, but there are a couple of things we try to stick to for standards.
Yeah. And also another thing is that I usually try to leave an offering, like how Richie was talking about how he does like his sound offering. I guess I could just label myself as a witch. Like I sometimes will leave behind lavender, cinnamon, rosemary, just for kind of comfort and peace and like warmth and remembrance, like to take time and hold space for whoever was here. So.
Interesting. Yeah, because I do have a friend of mine whose wife is a witch. And I'll ask her questions, and I was telling her about the stuff that was kind of going on here, and she's like, well, she gave me a list of stones and crystals that I could get, and so the wife and I have kind of like this like little stone and crystal garden, and we sage once a week, and it's just to keep whatever is in the house out of our space, and it's actually worked pretty well so far, but I realize that sometimes when we get arguing, and I sage the place, it usually tends to really lighten up.
It does. It actually does. Like sage is like it's a mood lifter, and
it's a trigger object for me. I mean, just the smell of it.
He calls it ghost poo.
Yeah, my ghost poo. It stinks up the house, and it's just it's a comfort thing. Smells, music, sound. Like there's things you hear or smell or taste that just trigger certain emotions and certain feelings. And aside from the actual character, the metaphysical properties of sage and what you can use it for, it's just it makes the mind right, for me, and it's a great, powerful tool.
I definitely have to agree. I do myself like the smell of sage, definitely. It's
I think it's a love-hate thing. I think people either love it or hate it.
yeah, I think so too. I actually in the last week's video that I put out, there was I don't know if you guys had listened to it or anything like that. But when I was putting that video together, it was intentionally supposed to be a haunted places in Maine, but it kind of went off the rails as far as that goes. It didn't quite go the way I thought it would. But one of the things is when I started a couple of days before that, I started planning out the video, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. I was trying to pick places that were kind of like off the beaten path that would ultimately were more difficult to find information on. I got a call that Friday morning from a coworker of mine and said, I got to talk to you. He was like really freaking out over the phone. and he and two of his friends had gone to Mount Hope Cemetery in Bangor and had this wicked experience. I myself can't, he's a young kid, but he seemed very genuine and truthful when he was sick. Because I told him, I said, what are you doing later? Come over to the house, let's record it. And when he was sitting right here next to me, and I just kind of got it from, I actually went out the next day and bought him a stick of sage and gave it to him like, here, sage yourself, because whatever's what happened, let's make sure that nothing kind of followed you around. And apparently he's been good. So he's going into the military. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but hey, keep your head down and I hope you're all right. You know what I mean? Type of thing.
And take the sage stick with you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You're definitely going to need it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I said a little sage doesn't hurt. Never hurt.
Oh, it's good stuff. It is good stuff, definitely. Can you guys go into, and I'm not necessarily saying from an investigation standpoint, if that was one of the experiences, by all means, please share it. But I'm just kind of wondering, what are some of the more notable places around the area, and not just Maine, but like, New England as a whole that you guys have been to that have really struck you and you've it was kind of like a head turner, I guess is the best way that I could describe it at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of spitball here, a couple of them. So actually, just recently, I'll start with that one. Just this past week, we were fortunate enough to head down to the Bridgewater Triangle down in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. In multiple areas, but we had two different spots we had gone to, and one of them was we had gone out to this trail down in the Hockomock Swamp. And, the trail kind of cuts through, it's a very long, as far as you can see, it's this long, straight, like 3-foot wide path. And it's as far as the eye can see, and it kind of cuts along the side of the swamp and then eventually kind of makes its way through the middle. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but the Bridgewater Triangle, it's a absolute just dumping spot for energy and for activity. I mean, everything from cryptids to UFO to paranormal to spirit activity to natural, to elementals, all kinds of stuff down there. And so we had gone down and had some pretty cool experiences along this trail. We actually captured, from our standpoint, a pretty solid EVP. Doing a little bit of that work as well as too just all the fields you could ask for. It's got that typical kind of you're being followed from a distance, you're being watched. Every time you turn around to look over your shoulder, it's almost like you're going to catch the tail end of somebody darting off the trail so that you don't see them, and then they hop back in when you're not paying attention. And it was just a very active kind of area, and a lot of light play too. A lot of the claims down there are these kind of phantom lights, and some people say they see phantom fires in balls of light, different colors, and it's just. A lot of it probably has to do too with the atmosphere and what you're seeing, but you can definitely, if you sit in silence and you concentrate, and you can definitely see this kind of like odd light play that goes off in a distance. So that was a really cool experience for us that, like I said, we just got to take care of this week.
Wow, the Hockomock Swamp is a big area. Yeah, exactly. Just reiterating what you said, anything from UFOs to spirits to actually Sasquatch itself. It's just why is it always a triangle?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, why is it? And it's kind of crazy. Like, it's a big subject to debate. Like, it goes far beyond, like, they call it more of, like, it's a flat land. Like, I guess there's, like, a lot of controversy of, like, where the lines are and everything like that. But whatever. It's that area. It's crazy. Whatever. It's, like I said, there's just a lot of activity. It's a hotbed for sure. And it was awesome experiencing that the other day. For sure. I got poked in the back, kind of, like, surprised me out of nowhere. I'm just like, what the heck?
Wow.
I was hoping that it was a puff wedgie. I want to see one of them. But I would probably say, like, a location for me, I feel like that's kind of, like, off the beaten path that you really probably don't hear about is down in York, Maine, the Old York Historical Society. I kind of had some kid-free time, and so I thought, why not go check out a scary location an intriguing, kind of scary-looking location. So I went to the old jail, and it's I think it is the oldest jail here or was in Maine, or that it is in Maine. And so anyways, so I went, I know. Yeah, no, it's still there. But anyways, sorry. So I went to go check it out, and just walking through it, kind of got, it's just creepy because, like, seeing, like, I talked to the tour guide, so who just kind of walks around and, you know, educates people as they're walking around and everything. And so I was walking through some of, like, the older parts of it, and some, like, the windows, like, how they had them back then, because they didn't have, like, obviously, like, normal heat, and just the bars over the windows, and how they would be open year round, and finding some of, like, the artifacts that they had found, like, within the walls, like old, like, lobster shells, and from probably, like, the early 1700s, like, mid 1600s, like, it was very, it's very strange. So walking around that area, and I was coming out from one of the older part of the jail, I actually got my butt slapped. And I was, like, so taken back. I was just like, whoa, like, wait a minute. First of all, I was not expecting that. And I was kind of just like I said, I was really just taken back. And so I was just like, you know, no, thank you. You know, just please, you know, respect myself, like, respect me. I'm here respecting you. And then going on upstairs, it was kind of a different type of energy, kind of more of, like, serious type. And come to find out, one of the beds that they have in there, it was donated to them. But it was a bed from the Civil War, and I felt like just having, like, this huge connection to Gettysburg and having so many feels and emotions behind it. I definitely felt like I was kind of drawn to that room, and then just to find out about, like, the bed was from the Civil War era, and so yeah, I would definitely say that the York Historical Society, those buildings that they have there, besides the jail, and also they have the cemetery there with Mary Nason, who's supposedly the witch of York. Her tomb, or her, she's buried there, and that's a very famous spot to go and check out in York. But I'd say that spot, and then obviously Parsons Field Seminary.
It was an awesome spot for us, no doubt.
Now, didn't you guys just had an investigation, or kind of like a trip into there recently? I think I remember seeing that on your page recently.
Yeah, so we I started volunteering there probably about, I don't know, 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago.
About that, yeah.
I started volunteering there, and I approached the president of the board there about setting up doing an investigation, but doing it as a fundraiser. So all the money that would be raised for this, all the tickets that would have been purchased, would go back to Parsons Field, because obviously everybody is struggling right now during this pandemic, but even more so, like, these nonprofit organizations that rely on events and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're struggling the most. So they kind of love that idea, because they do paranormal investigations there. And so, yeah, we did that and raised $900 for them, which feels amazing, and they are so grateful. And I think everybody there had a good time. It was kind of like a hit or miss. There were some groups that kind of had minor experiences, and then there was other groups that had some pretty good, steady, like, experiences and stuff going on through the night. But
it's definitely become, you know, in a very short term, it's become, you know, one of our new favorite places to go, and you know, on the awesome side, through Missy volunteering there and putting in the work there, it's kind of, you know, hopefully gonna, you know, it opens up some opportunities to kind of get back there and have this be, you know, one of the regulars. It's just, there's so much space to cover, and, like, you know, like Mr. was saying, it was kind of hit or miss, and we had a little bit of a larger group, so we had split off into 4 groups, and we had 4 groups of about 7 or 8 people, and you know, it was just great. It was great to be in there, to experience it, and just be in the environment. You know, and we're definitely looking to get back there with a smaller setting, you know, to really kind of hone in and dial in, because the stuff that we did get was great, and I feel like we may have missed some opportunities just you know, with having the larger groups there. But, you know, for just to go and be in the moment and get the experience of the building, it was awesome. And I say this every time we talk about it, even just the ride out there, it's like taking a break from reality and driving back in time as you're driving out these beautiful backcountry roads and these old style farmhouses and these beautiful homes, and then you get to Parsonsfield, which is just an eye dropping experience of its own. And it's great. Like I said, it's like you leave reality and you get to go back in time to when things seemed simpler and really enjoy the moment. So that's becoming one of our new favorites for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I do want to say, though, that where you guys do a lot of community stuff, I think that's absolutely awesome. The fact that you guys raised $900 for that's absolutely epic. Because in one of those programs you guys are doing, that's how I found out about you, through my sister Lori at the backpack program here in town. So
awesome.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're so excited about that opportunity. We kind of just thought of the idea, and we were just like, we need to get the backpack program involved and get that. So pretty much we're doing a Halloween decorate your yard contest. People here in the Sanford, Springville area enter the contest for $10, and all that money is going towards the backpack program, which helps out so many children during the weekends, and they've helped out so many families during this pandemic. Like,
Absolutely.
They definitely like upped everything, because they were helping even more than just families. It was open to anybody that needed the help during this time.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a big thank you, like,
Sure.
to them.
It just seemed kind of natural. I mean, Halloween is a big, it's a lifestyle really for us. It's not even so much a holiday, although it is our favorite holiday. With, of course, everything going on and everything being up in the air and, Halloween, like I said, it's a big event for us, the trick-or-treating, the getting out, the costumes, the decorations. And with some of that being kind of up in the air this year, we thought, well, why not? There's no reason to not enjoy the theme of the year. And so, again, an opportunity to raise some money for a great cause and just to kind of keep people in that spirit, when they're used to going out and, maybe some of the normals aren't normal this year. So if we can still bring a little enjoyment to some people and have a good time doing it.
Nice.
Why not?
Nice, definitely. And speaking of Halloween, this show is going to come out on Halloween, so you get to spend Halloween with us, which is really, really cool.
That's so exciting. We were excited to hear about that.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, man, what am I going to do for a Halloween show? And then we had locked tonight up to do this, and I was like, you know what? I couldn't think of a better situation or a better couple of people to actually come in and talk about their experiences and what they do, to have it come out on the best day of the year. So,
well, awesome. Thank you. Yes, we thank you very much for that.
So, you had mentioned something a little bit earlier about you were working with some of the singing bowls to bring it on certain places that you wanted to investigate or just kind of have experiences in. Out of general curiosity, what do you guys normally bring to, say, either an investigation or if you just kind of have a moment of time in a place where you can kind of, go in there and see what you can get out of it? What do you normally bring for equipment?
So, I'll hop on that. For me, I've always, when I first kind of got interested in this, not to say that I've ever really been consider myself a skeptic, but I've definitely always tried to find the reasoning behind what's going on. I may be the kind of more sinister one that'll be the first to be like, well, that's actually this, and to explain it away, because for me, I liked having that. For me, it needed to be, there was no other explanation, and this is what it was. So, when I first kind of dove into this, and Missy kind of rekindled this for me, I was really about just the very basic. I loved using EVPs, using a cage meter, some things that kind of just gave you some more undisputable kind of evidence. I mean, obviously you can still debunk things in that sense, but since then we're kind of looking to expand a little bit more of it, and I've always had some thoughts about spirit boxes and spirit radios, and here recently we've gotten to kind of try them and try some different methods with them, and it's been a great tool to use to add to the bag of tools. I think anything you can do to try to create an experience or validate another experience, I think just gives more validity to the situation, and you can kind of hone in a little bit more. So we kind of started incorporating that again for myself, bringing in some the singing bowls and really looking to kind of up the energy in the room. And it's still something that I'm working with and trying to figure out as far as, finding the right tones and the right combination of things. And, I just, there's so many different forms of energy, and we all know that is what, thrives activities. And if you can put more of that into a room, the idea behind it is to create more available activities. So, what do you got?
Yeah, I have to say, like, I love good old-fashioned EVPs, K2s. My go-to is my dowsing rods. It's funny. I love the dowsing rods. My daughter, she uses a pendulum. She loves that. And I also just like using myself as a tool. So many people, I feel like you hear now are saying that you are your greatest tool, and it's true. You are your best tool, your intuition, the feelings that you're getting, the senses. We've got a whole bag of tricks, and I think it's fun to bring definitely like the more like what you see on TV, like the science, like tools into it, but also bringing like the medical. I always say it wrong.
Metaphysical.
I always get tongue-tied. Yes, I always like enjoying bringing that to it, like as a witch, as an empath, that somebody's on the spiritual path. Like, why not try it all?
And I think it's awesome. I think that that's one thing I've been seeing, myself seeing a lot more recently is just, coming from the more scientific side of it and seeing a lot more of these metaphysical tools that are being used in intuition and using mediums and psychics. And I think it's great because, I think at one point there was a stigma where those two things had to be kept separate and the scientific didn't like the other side didn't like, but then when you start to kind of pull these tools all together, again, it just gives you more ways to get validation. And if you have somebody goes in, and perfect example at Parsons Field, we had a woman with us who was a medium, and she's intuitively getting names in her head, and so we're using those names to then try to get the physical evidence behind it, and to maybe capture, and use those as tools to spark conversation. And so I think you can bounce each off each other, and it just gives you more. It just gives you more opportunity to seek what you're looking for.
Well, it's funny that you bring up the dowsing rods. I had originally not really known about. I know them well enough to know that people would use them to look for water, to dig for wells and whatnot. I didn't realize that you could use them in experiences like this. And the reason why I say that is for a past video, I was doing some research on Swan Island. And this is a place that, I just to say I grew up in a house that had a spirit in it. I've made some very bad decisions with a Ouija board. So for me, doing this type of format, talking about the paranormal, I don't necessarily want, the spirit of the lady that lives upstairs, because I believe I know who it is. She generally tends to leave us alone, which is totally fine. We hear her banging around up there, and I know all the doors and windows are locked because I check regularly, and so I know people aren't getting up there like they should, like they shouldn't, I should say. I remember watching this video where this lady, she, had called herself, she was a witch, a medium, and they were at this one spot on Swan Island called the Demon Well, and she brought the dowsing rods out, and she's holding it, and these things start spinning counterclockwise. And she had mentioned something about the fact that there was a gate there, and that when she encounters a gate and uses these rods, that's how she knows it's there. Out of curiosity, with your own experience, what were some of the, how are you using the dowsing rods to kind of get how are you using those to kind of, where I'm getting at here? I'm kind of drawing a blank a little bit.
Yeah, no, I do. And I was going to say, so when I use, I feel like anybody, when they use the dowsing rods, it will be different for everybody. So how I get my yes or no questions and how I get certain answers, it's different. The one thing that I love about my dowsing rods is that sometimes, it validates, I feel like I'm having a conversation in my head with them, and like sometimes I don't even speak. They kind of just go along and answer the questions for me. One thing that I think is really cool, and one trick that like I show my our kids about it, is that like I'll ask where the energy is, like where's the spirit, where's the energy, and so they can kind of like pinpoint it, like, and it kind of validates my intuition, but it's also, it kind of helps with my children because they're growing. Like, I'm not going to push this on them, like, but they definitely do have some sensitivity. They have gifts, but it almost just like, you know, where do you think that it is in the room? Like, where do you think that the spirit or the being or where the energy is? Where do you feel it in the room? And I'll ask the kids, and they'll point to it, and then I'll ask the dowsing rods, and just seeing them kind of getting the validation for their feelings and what they're sensing. I think it's a great tool. That's probably one of my favorite ways to use it, is just to kind of help boost not only my, you know, intuition, or to kind of validate my intuition and make me feel like, okay, am I getting this right? Like, whatever. But also for my children too.
Now you had mentioned just a moment ago that your daughter uses pendulum. Is that kind of along the same lines of the dowsing rods, or is that kind of like a completely different animal?
They're kind of like, I don't see too much of a difference between them. Obviously, a pendulum is just like it's swings left, right. Yeah, no, I don't see that. It's a divination tool. It's just a different type of tool. I guess it's just it's a little bit different of a method than the dowsing rods, but it's still pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. I had watched, because the reason why I mentioned Swan Island, one was because of the dowsing rods thing, but my buddy is really trying to push me to go spend a night there, you know, this coming summer. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that, because it was really strange. I watched 2 different videos from 2 different content creators. One was this lady, Sinister Sarah, I think she was. And she had gone with a few other paranormal groups there, and they had gotten a lot of stuff. Like, they had used a bunch of different things like spirit boxes, and of course you had that lady who had the dowsing rods. You know, they were also using the Keen method. It's the method where it's kind of almost like a sensory deprivation, where the person can't hear or see, so somebody on the other side would be asking questions, and they would be more in tune to get answers from spirits because they're completely... Have you guys ever used something like that?
That's like the Estes method, right? Where
yes, that's
like
the
they're
one,
hooked up to the spirit box. Yeah. Yes, that's actually kind of like one of like that's like something that I would prefer how to use a spirit box would be something like that, versus doing it where everybody can hear it. I think trying it like that, it's interesting.
It takes
like
the influence out of it, which is really cool. It, you know, especially when you go back and you're like, you know, we actually we used that method down at the Hockomock Swamp the other night, and it was cool because as I was listening and just putting the words together and just speaking out loud, again, I can't hear the questions being asked, but then when you go back and you listen to the recordings afterwards, and you can kind of see some responses that really do line up with the line of questioning, and I think it just gives what is, you know, I feel like a spirit box, there's a lot of ways you can almost explain it away. So what this does is it narrows that window, and it gives it a little bit more concrete potential as far as the actual response that you're getting, and not an influenced response because you don't hear the questions.
Just out of curiosity, with the because I'll get back to what we were talking about before, but as far as Hockomock Swamp, you had some really cool experiences in there. But I'm kind of wondering, because I've had a cryptid experience, and it was a very long time ago. I'm just kind of wondering if there was something that was not so paranormal, like if you would, maybe something was shadowing you in the woods, loud knocks, hoots, maybe, if you had heard anything like that over there?
No, unfortunately, no, we didn't get any type of like knocks, anything like that. But you know, there's like the talk of like, you know, like cryptids kind of being like in some type of like different type of dimension, like to be able to use these tools, just like spirits could too. Like, some people have reported, like, Bigfoot, like, psychically communicating with them before they actually had visually had seen him. Getting messages. So I definitely think that, you know, who knows, like, we didn't physically see or hear anything like that, but who knows, like, you know.
And I will say along that line too, like, so if you kind of incorporate maybe the elemental side, and maybe if you think of that as, you know, maybe like the trickster, kind of playing jokes and kind of being a little bit of a prankster, you know, that could almost go hand in hand with that feeling of, you know, I have the urge to look over my shoulder, and every time I do, I feel like I just missed something, like something just darted off, and almost like it was playing that game, like, haha, you know, you can't see me, but I can see you. And that's kind of the feel that you get out there. So, I mean, there's definitely that potential, you know, for that more kind of elemental activity taking place.
Wow. You know, it's funny. In a lot of the people that I've talked to, you guys are the first ones to actually entertain the idea that maybe Bigfoot could be interdimensional and that they could communicate telepathically like that. And the only other person that I'd ever actually heard mention something like that was a man named Barry Littleton. I don't know if you know who he is or not. If you get a chance to kind of look him up on YouTube, it's the experiences he had has been, he's an experiencer, kind of, you know, like the type of experience Mike has had, but it's kind of taken a different turn with him where he's actually been shown a lot of things. I don't know that I could actually explain it properly. It's something you would have to hear from him, but he, being up at East Seti Ranch a couple of years ago, had talked about actually communicating with elder Sasquatches that lived around the mountain, which is just cool that you guys brought that up, because that kind of just gives it an entire new element.
Yeah, no, definitely. I kind of had like a switch up of thoughts and beliefs, and I feel like in this field, when you have this passion for this field, you kind of need to keep an open mind and be willing to change your thoughts and your ideas behind it and your opinion about things. I think it's something that you definitely need to keep an open mind about.
Yeah, I think it's tough to be so hard set on one idea, because so for me personally, like, I was always under the background and understanding that, you know, a Bigfoot is something here on the physical plane, you know, blood, flesh, fur, you know, it's here on this earth. You know, but it doesn't mean that I'm also not open. And as I hear more conversation about it, and start to kind of maybe put some of the pieces together, I become very open to that idea of, well, okay, well, you know, yes, maybe you can have both. Maybe you can have something that's of physical presence, but also has the ability to kind of jump dimensionally from here to there. You know, and it's just, I think not knowing the answer is what keeps it intriguing. But definitely being open to all possibilities. Until we do know the truth, maybe one day. Yeah,
well, I mean, you touched on an interesting thing. I mean, I definitely do think they are flesh and blood creatures, but the thing with that is that I think that their consciousness is at such a high level, so much higher above ours, that this is a creature that can kind of transcend both boundaries, but still keep a presence in the physical world. It's kind of a strange thing. Very interesting. Very interesting.
It is. It is. You can find yourself in a lot of rabbit holes.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, I've found myself all week listening to different people talk, and it's just like, my goodness, how do I even register any of this stuff?
How do you even process this? Like, how do I need to interpret this? Like, no, it's crazy. No, I totally get it.
Now, I'm wondering, have you guys had any experiences with spirit boards, Ouija boards, psychic circles, that type of thing?
Yeah, we have. You know, both Richie and I look at it as a tool. It's not a toy. You need to respect your tools, all your tools.
Clean your tools.
Clean your tools, and that means like anything from your K2 to your scrying mirror to your spirit board. Like, all of that needs to whatever. But yeah, definitely. I have had a couple experiences. One, I'd have to say, was kind of a little bit like alarming, and I kind of put the board away for a little bit, but I've used it since then, and I haven't had any issues since then. But yeah, I think it's just, you got to remember, you're going in, you set the intentions, and you set your protection. You're in control, and that's just how I kind of feel about it. And like I said, it's not a toy; it's a tool.
Yeah,
No.
we definitely, Missy and I, like she was saying, we both kind of have that same view of, and I know, as soon as you bring up a spirit board, it becomes this instant controversial topic, and you've got people that believe so strong one way or the other. And again, for us, I look at it again. It's a tool of divination. It's a tool of communication. Like anything, you have to respect it. You have to treat it the right way. Again, it's not a toy. It's not something you play with. It's not for parlor tricks. And you respect it. You use it in the proper manner. But I've never looked at a communication board as anything more than that. I know that a lot of, it seems like it's the almighty when it comes to opening up access to the other side. But again, I think you can make that mistake both intentionally or unintentionally with any tool that you use when you're inviting something to come forth and make communication of some sort. So, but again, like Missy said, we really preach, and it's something that we preach with our kids. Whenever they get a chance to use these tools, that it's just that it's a tool. It's not a toy, and there's a level of respect, and there's a way to handle it, and there's a right and a wrong way, like any tool that you use, and there's safe measures of how to use that tool. So,
Well, Lorraine Warren was known for using spirit boards in a lot of the seances and investigations that they did, too, or as I've heard, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if it's a tool, it can be used for good, or because it's labeled as something as a game, it could be misused, and that's what you kind of get yourself into trouble.
I know. The board says it's for ages 8 and up,
Right.
So it's just, you can buy it anywhere. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble. You can find it anywhere. It's crazy.
So out of curiosity, you don't have to if you don't want to. I can completely understand if you don't. But would you be willing to go into that Ouija board experience that you had?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. So actually, we were using it at our home, and sometimes I feel like the spirit or whoever is just kind of being lazy, and so I'm intuitively sometimes I'll get the picture or the message inside of my head instead of on the board, maybe because it's just easier for them. Maybe it's less energy work that they needed to do. So there, where we were living before, I always sensed that there was something outside, but kind of like how you stayed outside, kind of left us alone, but I felt like if I ever let my guard down, if he did come inside, he kind of was not saying he was evil, but more of mischievous. He wanted the fear. He wanted to do not harm or anything like that, but he had that mischievous, I'm gonna bad intentions. I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit if you ever let your guard down or something like that. And I feel like when we were doing that Ouija board. When we were doing the Ouija board that night, we cleansed before. I had my crystals out. I set my intentions. I put up my protection. But it still felt like he was coming through. I could see him. I couldn't physically see him, but I saw him in my mind's eye, standing there at the window, and I felt like he was waiting for me. Okay, I think this might be my chance to have her put her guard down, so I might be able to kind of, slide inside, get past the protection stuff that she has up against around the house and her intentions that she has around the house, and be able to get inside. And I was just nope, kind of locked that down. He kind of showed me some just creepy, he just kind of warped into something a little bit creepy, and I'm just nope, you're all set. We're closing this down, staging, and we just kind of put it away for a little while.
Nothing wrong with that. So you've said multiple times that you have medium-like tendencies.
Yeah, like I said, I don't label myself as anything, and I don't come out and say that I am. And sometimes I feel like I feel like I'm like a small fish, in a big pond of so many amazing psychics and mediums that I know personally or know of in this field, and I just feel like I'm just this tiny little fish. So I downplay. I'm just no,
You
downplays
feel what
big,
you
she
feel.
downplays big time. She's she doesn't give herself the credit that she needs to. But it's awesome from my standpoint, because I don't necessarily. I dive in fully as far as the beliefs and the abilities. So for me on the outside, kind of having that more like wanting to be the scientific and kind of sinister about some things, it's opened my eyes up big time to really see what she can do, and just it also comes in handy around the house too. And it's you miss something, and you ask, and she always kind of has that knack for where it's at. But it's like I said, she doesn't give herself enough credit for what she's kind of dove into and allowed herself to become.
Well, it sounds a lot to me like you. I can understand totally downplaying whatever. I'm there. I can totally understand that. I like to downplay a lot of the things that I've experienced. As far as my next question is, what seems very interesting to me, is this something that developed at an early age, or?
I feel like I honestly don't know. Like, I feel like there's always been something that I could sense, that I knew, or like I knew something was going to happen, or like Richie says, like if something was lost, 9 times out of 10 I knew where it was. Like, I didn't necessarily need to go and find it. Like, I could just be like, oh, it's over there, or but I don't know. But I feel like once I kind of got back into this, because being a mom, like I kind of lost myself a little bit, and I feel like all moms kind of do, especially being moms of younger kids. And then once I kind of, found myself a little bit again and kind of got grounded, I'm surprised like how much more it's opened up. Like, and I've realized like, I'm very in tune with my children, which I feel like all moms are, but almost like in tune to their sensitivities and their gifts that they have. I think that becoming a mom definitely like amplified that. And like I said, once I kind of got out of my mom rut and tried to work on myself again, it definitely opened up a lot more.
Wow, that's wicked. That is so cool. It really is, definitely. So what have you guys got going on coming up anymore? I mean, other than say like the Halloween decoration contest that you guys have going on with the backpack program, is there anything else coming up pretty soon that you guys are kind of looking towards, or something you want to go explore?
Well, I think the next thing, one thing that I do have to say is that I think we already said that we have our trip planned down to Gettysburg at the end of the month of November. And we really want to do more of these public paranormal investigating events where they go towards the location that we are investigating. Maybe doing more places at Parsons Field, historical societies, cemeteries, just to kind of give back to the community, because we love our community and we want to give back to it. I think that's definitely one thing that we're going to be looking towards. It kind of stinks because now it's kind of getting into like the winter months, and a lot of things are going to be closing up shop for the winter and the holiday season. But definitely springtime, that's what we're looking towards, is working on more of doing like the public events to benefit nonprofit organizations.
And I think too, another thing that we're going to try to really do, because we've been holding a monthly, we call it our monthly paranormal meetup, where we encourage anybody who has any level of interest whatsoever in this field to come and to attend and just feel comfortable around other people that have these same interests. And they've gone really well. And we actually have one more planned for this month. And like Missy said, with winter coming, we've been doing outside events, obviously because of a lot of the COVID restrictions. So we might have to kind of get away from our meetups, but we're looking to utilize, kind of the social platform a little bit more. And we've been trying to do, our weekly live events, but also looking to maybe incorporate a little bit more kind of interview styles, and getting together with some other groups, just to keep the information fresh and to keep people talking. And so, we're definitely looking to kind of expand upon that as, some of these things, these events maybe be on hold a little bit for the season. So, really looking to try to just kind of up the more of the social presence and still getting out there and allowing people to kind of talk and feel comfortable in that environment.
Nice. So, big question. What are you guys doing for Halloween?
Well, we are probably going to watch some scary movies, obviously, and eat a ton of chocolate and Halloween candy. And then we're going to do a seance. We're going to bust out the Ouija board and kind of might do some scrying, do some Ouija board, try to do a seance.
Wow.
Because why not?
I find that awesome and very brave, because being Halloween, it's literally the crown day on the festival of Samhain, and it's when the veil is supposed to be the most weakest. I think that is absolutely epic. So you've got this cool seance going on with the Ouija board come Halloween night, and you're going to be going to Gettysburg again really soon. I think I'm pretty much going to want you guys to come back on the show and talk to us about all that stuff.
Well, we definitely would love to, Ryan, for sure.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Epic conversation. Awesome.
Oh, well, thank
Definitely.
you. Thank you for having us on and being a part of this. We definitely enjoyed it for sure.
Definitely would like to get together again at some point.
Definitely. So, one more thing before we sign off on this tonight. Where can the Chaos Army find you?
They can find us on Facebook at paranormal5.com, and they can also find my blog at paranormal5.com.
So at Facebook at Paranormal 5.
Yeah. All right.
And then we do have a .com. we do have a .com. It's paranormal5.com, which, we are definitely going to look to expand more on that, as we kind of get further along. But right now, Missy, she's got some awesome blogs up there. There's a lot of stuff up there on Gettysburg, on some, just some of her personal kind of doings and things that she's got going on. It's into that she's wanted to share with everybody. So, and I think you can also find us on Insta. At Paranormal 5 too on Instagram.
We always forget about that.
All the social sites at Paranormal 5.
All right, and I'll do my absolute best to try to get all those links in the description so it'll be easier to find you guys. If you guys want to hold on with me real quick, everybody.
Sure, definitely.
Everybody, this has been Richie and Missy from the Paranormal 5. Thank you, Nocturnals, for taking the time to stop and listen to the show. I truly appreciate that, and I appreciate you. A very special thank you to our guests for entertaining us and telling us their stories and sharing their wisdom. Until the next time, Nocturnals, I will see you in the next show. Good night, everybody.